Hey guys, it's Light here, and in today's video I want to talk about our favourite robot, VASCO, our robot Starfield companion. So I mostly just want to talk about all of the new possibilities that he may come with and how he may be different from other companions, and also talk about some news that some people may not be aware of when it comes to VASCO. I do also want to really quickly point out that I have a major sore throat, so if I sound rough in this video, I do apologise. But anyway, one major thing that I do think is very likely when it comes to VASCO is that he may have recorded lines for our characters' names, like how Codsworth had that for our player character in Fallout 4. Although it is important to note that in the VASCO information video / teaser trailer thing we got, he simply calls the protagonist Captain. Now this could just be what he calls us if the voice of VASCO didn't record our particular name, like again in Fallout 4, if Codsworth's voice actor didn't record the particular name we've chosen for our character, he would simply just call us Sir or Mum, depending on whether we pick to play as male or female, aka Nate or Nora. But then obviously it does beg the question, well, if VASCO can call us certain names, why didn't Bethesda show it off in the Meet VASCO video that they put out? Well, I think for two reasons. If this feature is even a part of VASCO's possibilities, and in the video he called us, for example, Todd, they'd have to take time in said video to explain the feature and explain that our character will not be forced to be called Todd. And a second reason why I think they wouldn't want to show us in that particular video is because this is more of a feature that you show during a showcase, right? I mean, go and take a look at Fallout 4's showcase where Todd announced this feature and people literally were cheering and clapping like Todd just rolled out on stage on a sick-ass deck and did a kickflip. I did also make a poll over on Reddit asking the Starfield sub whether they think this feature will be in the game, and the majority of them do, so there's that. Now personally, I honestly don't really mind if this feature is in the game either way, because it doesn't really change anything, it's just a small fun little detail, and I just thought that it was kind of worth mentioning. Now with that out of the way, I do actually want to talk about VASCO's possible, actual helpful possibilities, if that makes sense. In his little teaser trailer, Bethesda do mention that VASCO has been, quote, refurbished to meet the requirements of Constellation's mission, and that he is a utility-based, heavy industrial machine, and that he is, quote, well suited for the rigours of space travel. Now they also go on to say that he's capable of travelling through rough terrain, he has a lot of survival gear and capacity needed for overland journeys, that he also has defensive capabilities, but that his primary role is peaceful. They also mention that he's been with Constellation for, quote, many years. Okay, so let's go over this piece by piece. Firstly, they mention his capabilities of travelling through rough terrain, and I think that this tells us a few things about VASCO, and also about Starfield in general. Now this is just a little bit of speculation on my part, so take it with a grain of salt, but this could potentially mean different types of noticeable terrain in Starfield. Now obviously we do technically have different terrain in, say, Fallout and Elder Scrolls, but they're not really noticeable, if that makes sense, unless you're talking about land and water. So what I mean is, because of them mentioning this, Starfield could possibly have snow that slows us down, or sinking sand around Aquila City, maybe even mud in some type of jungle biome that lets us get stuck, or simply steep hills that we have to climb. Well, if that's true, then I think it's pretty clear that VASCO will be able to get through all of this no problem, however the protagonist / player character may struggle. Now they also go on to mention how VASCO is utility based. There's also this piece of concept art here which shows VASCO doing something to our ship. Now I think he's probably fixing it or repairing it like most of us assume, which is what Bethesda mean by utility. Perhaps VASCO can fix our ship for us, or at least repair it a little. I imagine he's programmed to help us with this. Now this could also be an indication to manual spaceflight. Again, take this with a grain of salt, this is just me speculating. But I only think that because if our ships are just a fast travel mechanism, like they are in, say, the Outer Worlds or even Jedi Fallen Order, I don't see how they're ever going to get damaged unless we're actually getting into space fights and people are shooting at our ship and shit like that. But moving on. Next they go on to mention survival gear. I think that this could mean two things. Either he'll be able to simply hold our gear for us, which every companion does anyway, or maybe he can actually give us first aid kits or create healing items for us. Like how Codsworth in Fallout 4 will often make and then give us purified water, or like how Curie, yet another robot companion in Fallout 4, can craft / create stimpaks and again give them to us. And then obviously they do briefly mention the defensive capabilities. I think that this pretty much speaks to itself. Our boy VASCO has a license to carry in all solar systems. Do not mess with VASCO. Obviously, they do also quickly mention that he can basically carry our stuff. However, the way they talk about it seems like he can carry a lot, so there's that. One thing that I think is important to bring up is that apparently VASCO isn't even a real companion. A long time ago in a galaxy far away, Todd Howard, did a Ask Me Anything on Reddit, where somebody asked, hey, will Starfield have robot companions? This was before the trailer and before we knew anything about Starfield, and Todd replied saying yes, sort of. So what the hell does this mean? VASCO is very clearly a robot, and I mean, if that wasn't obvious enough, Bethesda have stated it themselves, so how is he not a real companion? There's a few different ways of looking at it, at least to me. Maybe Todd simply meant that VASCO is a companion, but because he's supposed to be our helper robot thingy, he isn't technically classed as a companion? That he's more of a butler or something? Another way to look at it is maybe VASCO actually isn't a companion. Maybe he can't leave the ship, which would kinda suck, to be honest. Maybe he's like a guard and he just stays around the ship, keeping it tidy and defending it. I honestly have no idea what Todd means by this, so I guess we'll have to just wait and find out. If you guys have any ideas, please do let me know in the comments, because honestly I'm confused. And another possibility with VASCO is maybe he can give us tips. Imagine we're new to Constellation, maybe we have no idea how to communicate with other planets, maybe we can ask VASCO for information on a species or location. For example, those raptor wolf things outside of Aquila City. Maybe we can ask VASCO about them and he tells us they're, say, weak to like fire weapons instead of bullets, for example. Or maybe he can just give us a brief rundown on the history of a certain location or species, and tell us what's kind of going on there and what to look out for, etc. This would actually be a really good way to put a lot of lore into Starfield. I definitely think that VASCO is going to play an extremely important role in Starfield nonetheless. Either way, not necessarily in the main story or whatever, but just in general. I definitely think he's going to be our first companion that we meet probably right off the bat, and he'll have some kind of input throughout the story and the different worlds. Now there's also a really good chance that we can modify VASCO too. It's not uncommon for Bethesda to test things they plan to do in their next game in their previous game's DLC, and of course I'm talking about Fallout 4's first DLC, Automatron. Bethesda could definitely use this type of system to allow us to change or upgrade VASCO, give him new built-in weapon systems, maybe even a different voice like we had in the Automatron DLC, although that I doubt, a different torso or new arms or leg parts. If you've played Fallout 4's Automatron DLC, you know that a list for this type of stuff goes on. We also see different types of VASCO in this Meet VASCO video/teaser trailer, so customizing him is seriously a good possibility. But another possibility is that, well, this could just be different VASCOs, if that makes sense. There's a very good chance that VASCO isn't a one-of-a-kind robot. We may find a bunch of him around Starfield's map or maps, like how in Fallout 4 we can find multiple Mr. Handys, despite Curie and Codsworth both being companions. So he may not actually be one of a kind like a lot of people think. And the last thing I want to mention is, well, it's less of a function and more of a little just speculation. I've wondered for a while if VASCO is an acronym for something, such as Vehicular Assistance Survival Combat Operations. That one I just read online, but it is a possibility because his name is all capitalized, which is pretty unusual for just a regular name. Well, anyway guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I'm seriously looking forward to meeting VASCO. I already love him, I mean, how can you not? Let me know in the comments what you think VASCO will be like and what possibilities he may come with that I might have missed. I'm seriously looking forward to hearing all of your speculation. And obviously, if you did enjoy today's video, please do quickly drop it a like. It really does help out smaller content creators like myself. And if you want to stay up to date on Starfield leaks, news, discussions and content, consider subscribing. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I really hope to see you in the next one.